What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Turn the Jets Live. I'm your host, Steven Zantz, joined by my co-host, Zantz Russo. Very special guest, recurring guest, actually, Antwan Staley of the Daily News. Guys, how we doing? We have a great game to talk about.
It feels weird, right? It's pretty good though. Antwan, thanks for joining us. How you holding up, man?
I'm good. Jets coming off back-to-back victories. I mean, they're scoring touchdowns now, three consecutive to start out the season for the first time since 1989, apparently. So, yeah, it's crazy.
That's just sad in itself, and they're like top 10 in offensive, defensive DVOA. It's truly a weird world we're living because typically we've seen a lot of good defenses as Jets fans, and I know you've obviously covered some good defenses with this Jets team, but we've never seen complimentary football the way we're seeing it for 3 weeks. So, Anton, we got to kick it off. I know, obviously, it's been a couple of days since that awesome win on prime time, which feels like it never happens for the Jets, especially against the Patriots. What's the vibe in the locker room right now? It seems like everybody's high. You know, I saw Rodgers was actually trying to keep it cool on McAfee today. But what would you say based on your conversations inside the building right now?
Well, excuse me, we hadn't been back to the locker room since the game on Thursday because they had Zoom on Friday and then a Zoom on Monday. So, but just after the game, I mean, players are excited. I mean, obviously, this is kind of new territory with them and Aaron and having the success that they had. But, you could just tell like there's a lot of optimism just surrounding the team. Even just after the Titans game, you could just tell that people just feel like, yeah, they have a chance like to do something special potentially if everything just holds up. So, yeah, there's a lot of happy faces there. People wanting to talk to you for the most part there. So, yeah, I think all in all, it's like really, not that the Jets were ever a bad locker room since I've been covering them, which has only been a short time. But I feel like it's just a lot more happy faces and just a lot more optimism just now with Aaron being back and them having a chance to potentially make the playoffs.
It's music to my ears right now, what you're saying. But I gotta say, like, what was the thing on Thursday night that impressed you the most about this team? I feel like Aaron's the easy answer, but if I had to ask you something that's not Aaron Rodgers, what was the most impressive thing about Thursday night?
I think I wrote about this too. Just having the maturity to just be the team that you're supposed to be. I mean, oftentimes I think we often give teams praise for beating upsetting teams that they weren't supposed to. I think it's cool to give praise to teams that do exactly what they're supposed to do. And speaking of the Jets, it's been so many times where they come into a game, especially the short week, and just lay an egg, or they don't. Maybe they win, but they don't have a dominant performance. Maybe they just skate by, and it kind of happened a little bit with the Titans games. I think a lot of that has to do with Aaron just gaining more confidence there, and obviously it's being a short week coming out of San Francisco on a long road trip. But to do that against a Pacers defense that's still a little rebuilding, but also has some talent as well. I think that was really what stood out to me. Just them taking care of business and doing exactly what they're supposed to do against a team that's rebuilding and starting over with a new head coach, a new quarterback there, and also a quarterback in waiting in Drake May.
So we kind of touched on it, like the locker room. Let's look at the flip side. And us, Steven and I, obviously, and all the listeners are Jets fans. So from that perspective, like, do we have a real legitimate reason to be excited after Thursday night, or are we getting out of our skis? When you think about everything you just mentioned, you think about beating a divisional opponent, and not only a divisional opponent, but one that has kicked our ass for the last 20 years. When you think about all this and you come out and you beat them in prime time, it's a game that you're supposed to win at MetLife. Rodgers' first game back at MetLife, and he plays the way he did. The team looks the way he does. Like, should Jets fans feel legitimately excited about this and come away from that game thinking, man, this could be something here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know as far as like where they might go as far as like, Super Bowl or anything like that. I would say hold off on that, but I think it's cool to be excited about a team. I mean, Jets fan, when was the last time Jets fans really were excited about a particular team? I mean,
2015.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been a while. So yeah, it's cool to have that excitement and optimism, especially when you got a guy in Aaron Rodgers that is only going to continue to have more confidence and get better as he continues to gain rapport with Garrett Wilson and some of the guys on offense. And then also offensive line is coming together too with the chemistry that they had. Sure, Morgan Moses is going to be out for probably 2 or 3 weeks there potentially, but you got a guy like Olaf Fashanu for Penn State who I thought they should have taken in the first place, but I got ripped about it just simply because a lot of people thought Brock Bowers was the shiny new tour. They wanted to, draft him instead. And, especially with all the offensive line injuries that they had a year ago, then I definitely think they had the foresight to see that through. But especially with their defense, I don't imagine you're going to get many bad performances from them. They feel like they let down the team in week 1 against the 49ers there. Yeah, I think you should be excited on all levels of this ball, especially special teams. Is what you saw Herb Charles against the Titans too. I mean, he definitely showed you something too, where I think some people were questioning should he even make the team in training camp.
Yeah, he's the new Justin Hardy. It seems like special teams ace.
Yeah,
it's not bad. Bruce, I didn't mean to cut you off, man.
No, that's okay. I just want to, if I could ask you to expand a little bit on the offense, right? So like you touched on it. We were talking before the show about the offensive line clicking. You kind of just touched on it there, getting Fashanu in as a obviously a viable replacement there for Morgan Moses, which is something that we're not used to. But 3 offensive touchdowns in 3 straight games, first time since 1989. And when you look at it, like they're not even obviously clicking on all cylinders. So what's the true potential of this offense when you factor in the fact that, outside of one drive, really, Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers haven't been on the same page, right? Mike Williams hasn't really gotten going. Tyler Conklin really showed life in the last game, but was pretty much invisible for the first 2 games. Like, what is the true potential of this offense? How good could they really be?
I don't think we know. I mean, that's the general answer. I think we're going to find out, honestly. But I think they could potentially, if I had to guess, an estimated guess, if everything comes together and they do exactly what they're supposed to, and Garrett has the year that he's supposed to, because I think a lot of teams are keying on him. I think you got to saw that with the Patriots and obviously the Titans when you had Snead, and then the 49ers and their really good defense there. If he can get going, and then again, Alan Lazard, he's having a bounce back here too as well. I know you didn't necessarily mention that, but I think they could be a top 10 top 10 offense. I think that's what, if their defense is playing the way that they're supposed to, and then you get a top 10 offense in the Jets, then I think they could potentially go pretty far there. I still think Buffalo, and I said it even before the season started, I didn't think they'd be this good, but I thought they were just still the team to beat in the AFC East, and they're still proven otherwise. But that doesn't necessarily mean in a 1-game situation the Jets couldn't potentially beat them or play up to their standard too. So I definitely think top 10 is not out the question for this team, but potentially if things work out right, maybe they could be even better than that.
I mean, top 10 is all we need. Like you said, with the defense playing at the level that we think it can. I know obviously it didn't look good in week 1, but it seems like everything is really shored up since about halfway into the Titans game. And it kind of reminds me of 2022 when they didn't really look sharp until the second half of that Bengals game. And then they just kind of took off. And I think not playing in the preseason definitely, showed, and you could see just how the team has looked the past 3 weeks. Each week they've incrementally gotten better in different areas of the team. And that's really a good sign, because the NFL is such a week-to-week league. When you're seeing improvements week after week, that's, it means your best football has yet to come.
Yeah, and also real quick too, like if you look at ESPN analytics, like they're already a top 10 offense. If you look at it just the way that they their standard is, like they're ranked, I think they're ranked 8th in their analytics standards too. So that's that's about on par where I think they could possibly be. So, I mean, 22, I definitely think that was a bit surprised, because I think a lot of people thought the Jets might win 4 or 5 games and then they end up winning 7. Yeah, this is a whole different animal where I think, I picked them to win anywhere from 9 to 10 games, but I definitely think if their offense is a top 10 unit, then, potentially it could be more, although they face a tough schedule in October starting against the Vikings coming up.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, going back to Morgan Moses, because we talked about him being out potentially 2 to 3 weeks. So do you see a scenario if Olu Fashanu plays really well that he actually won't lose the job, and then Morgan Moses will basically be the swing tackle and, case if Tyron gets hurt, emergency? Or do you think it's his job as soon as he's ready?
I think they would like to have him play left tackle eventually. So I think, they would probably stick Morgan back at right tackle, just simply because if something were to happen to Tyron Smith, which, he has not stayed completely healthy throughout a whole full season since 2015. So you just want to make sure he had that insurance plan. So if he has to go back to the left side, then I don't think they necessarily want to confuse him too much and then put too much on his plate. So I think, if it's like 2 or 3 weeks, then I think Morgan Moses will probably end up going back to being the starter. But if it happens to be longer, then maybe, it's a potential question there. Could, Fashanu end up being the long-term starter at right tackle, at least for this season anyway. Of course, long-term, he's going to be the left tackle for the Jets in the future.
Music to my ears. I love it.
It's good, and that's to go back to what you said about Bowers too. I think all of us now, knowing that you came into the season with two 33-year-old tackles that you're right and left tackle, we're happy that we have Fashanu here. So that's very good to hear.
I try to tell people that in April, but nobody wanted to listen. Like,
Yep.
people would just say, "Oh, well, we won't." There's no way they would take an offensive lineman. I'm like, why not? Like, you have two older tackles, and one of them has not shown the ability to stay healthy. So that was always my thing.
And now we're all ecstatic that we have him. And I know, like, going back 2-3 seasons, really, especially in the tailspin that was 2022, that's always been the thing that Saleh has kind of put the most blame on, right? Is the health of the offensive line or lack thereof. And that was the reason for those collapses. Actually, probably the biggest reason. But as we look kind of to the coaching staff, like, can you shed any light on really what the thoughts are after 3 games? I think a lot of us looked at this season coming in and said this is probably one of the most talented rosters that we've seen on a Jets team, but one of the question marks was the coaching staff. Like, what are we thinking with Hackett? Is he really in his bag? Is it just AR being back? Ulbrich and kind of what he did on Thursday with dialing up blitzes, is that kind of overcompensating now? Not overcompensating, but is that compensating for the Jermaine Johnson loss? Is something to be expected moving forward? Kind of just getting your thoughts on both offensive and defensive coordinator, and then obviously Saleh too.
It's a lot there. Well, I'll start out with the offense. I feel like Hackett really, expanded upon the playbook there in Game 3 against the Patriots. I feel like the 49ers game and also the Titans game, they came out very conservative, and I felt like that was not in the best interest of the team. I definitely think, you want to get Aaron going early, especially considering he was a little rusty. I feel like those first 2 games there. So why not have him throw the ball, whether it be a short pass to, Breece Hall, just get him in some kind of rhythm. And they finally did that with the play action pass, to get things going against New England there. So, yeah, I think it's important to, run the ball, obviously, especially when the Jets have 2, dynamic running backs in Braylon Allen and Breece Hall. But you also want to get Aaron into some rhythm there and call some different plays there. And I finally feel like Hackett did that against the Patriots there. So we'll have to see if that can continue. Defensively, yeah, I think they're going to have to probably blitz a little bit more too. Although Will McDonald's been playing out of his world, at least the last couple of games against the Titans, and then obviously against the Patriots there. But as time goes on, I imagine teams are going to find different ways to try to key in on him and try to take him away. And then now you're going to have to find another, potential pass rusher there. So whether it be the trade deadline or whatever the case may be, they're going to have to find some kind of answer there. But until then, and until teams to show they can stop it, then yeah, why not dial a blitz up every now and then? So I was definitely happy that they decided to do that, because in prior season, it don't seem like no matter what happened, they wouldn't blame the blitz at all. They would just rely on their front four. And then, sometimes you get in a little bit of trouble with that, especially when the quarterback has a ton of time. So I definitely think they're finally seeing like they're making the right adjustments there. And then, you can add Saleh into that mix too. I think the only question I would have is just the clock management situation. I don't know if that's been Aaron. I don't know. I know he's taking a little bit of blame for it. I don't know if he's just taking the bullets for Saleh, but we've seen it in the past too. Saleh has had some clock management issues. That's probably my biggest complaint for the first 3 weeks there. That has to get cleaned up there, especially when you're facing better teams, and you're going to need that time to try to maybe come back and win the game or whatnot. So yeah, that would be my only just nitpicking there, but it could be a potential problem later on.
I know, it's funny. It's like I kind of want to poll any Packers fans that we know to see if that was like something that religiously happened in Rodgers' time. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like I watched every snap over Rodgers' career, but I'm wondering if he did do that in Green Bay, just diagnosing the defense up until you're up against it. But it is interesting, and it's something that's kind of opened my eyes in the first 3 weeks here.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I know Aaron had talked about it after the Titans game. He was saying Robert saved my rear end like a few times too. So I think it's probably a combination of both. Like, and Rodgers trying to figure out calling plays and audibles. But yeah, they definitely have to get corrected as the season goes on.
All right. I mean, we're hoping. I mean, I do remember a lot when he was in Green Bay. He would always wait till the clock went to 0 or close to it. But the one thing I'll say is I just hope that Saleh learns that it's better just to take the 5 yards, unless it's obviously in a crucial spot, like in the fourth quarter, in a 2-minute drill or late in the game when you need to score. But if it's in the first minute of the second quarter of a game, I think you could sacrifice the 5 yards given the quarterback that you have. I just think that he needs to understand the 5 yards aren't worth burning the timeout. You need the timeouts, in my opinion. But
considering the situation there, if it's like third down, then yeah, I think you take the timeout. But if it's If it's first down, then yeah, I mean 5 yards is not going to necessarily kill you, especially considering this team is number one in third down conversions too. So, and I think they had a third and long play, a few of them, against the Patriots game, and they converted too, which is something I'm sure Jet fans were not necessarily used to.
No, and I mean, Saleh's probably adjusting like the rest of us, where, in years past, a 5-yard penalty on first down would be a crippling for the Jets offense on a drive. So Saleh's probably trying to save himself too. He can't shed the shades of Zach Wilson from years past.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, Antwan, I want to talk a little about some of the other injuries on the team. Obviously, DJ Reed's a little bit banged up. He ended up giving it a go. I know Michael Carter II's a little bit banged up. I know Mosley was very close to playing, but do you expect all three to play again on Sunday? I mean, well, Mosley didn't, but the other two did. Do you expect all of them to play on Sunday?
Yeah, I think Michael Carter, I mean, his ankle injury has been something since training camp. So it appears like it's going to be something that is just going to be lingering, just kind of the ankle sprain. So it's probably something he'll have to clean up or just, take care of during the offseason there. But all indications is he's going to try to play through it. So you hopefully – if you're a Jets fan, he can continue to stay healthy and, try to be as close to 100% as possible. DJ, probably the same thing, too. I think he'll play against Broncos. I don't think that'll be any issue. CJ, it's going to depend on just how that toe continues to heal there. I figured he wouldn't play anyway because it was such a short week there. And, toe injury, I mean, especially the big toe on your right foot, yeah, it's definitely could be a bit painful, especially when you're trying to plan and stop and go and everything like that. He tried to give it a go pregame, and it just wasn't working there, especially 4 days after the fact you just played your last game. So, yeah, I think it's a good chance he could play, but we'll have to see if he's out there for practice on Wednesday.
Yeah. Do you think Lecky Fotu is going to be back for the London game, or do you think he's going to be out longer than the initial 4 games that he has to miss?
That's a good question. Like, we haven't necessarily asked that. I'll have to check on that. But, yeah, I would imagine so. Like, I think they're definitely going to need him there,
yes.
Especially with the Vikings. And, not just Sam Darnold, and also Aaron Jones has been playing really well for him, too. So you definitely need somebody that can stop the middle and slow down the run, too. So, yeah, I think it's a good chance he gets be ready for the London game, but I'm not necessarily 100% sure on that.
Hey, Antwan, in non-Jets related news, but after the way the Raiders game finished and the comments from Antonio Pierce, is there any chance the Jets trade for Devontae before the trade deadline?
I think that's probably is like a trade deadline situation too. But I mean, it's looking like it's possible. I mean, I think part of it, like my thing, just hearing from, I know some of the Raiders reporters and people out there, he really wants to be out there. I think part of it is just, can you convince him to want to make, the move to New York and, come up here and, try to win a championship there? Because clearly it's probably not going to happen with the Raiders, at least not this year. So he wanted to move out west, be close to the family and things of that nature too. But ultimately, like, this game is about winning, and the Raiders are definitely not going to do that there. I didn't necessarily like the Pierce hire to begin with there. I mean, it was a good experiment like late in the season last year. He kind of galvanized the team and got them energized. But as a long-term solution, I think people are finding out, yeah, it probably wasn't the best move. And then now you got a guy, and Adams too. Like, and here's something also the Raiders are going to have to think about next year too, where he's not owed any more guaranteed money. So I'm sure Adams wants to be paid and compensated like a top receiver, which I think he still is, one of the top 5 in the game. So Are the Raiders prepared to do that? Yeah, I think he is. I think he's still one of the top 5 receivers in football there. I just think, look at the quarterback. Look at the Raiders quarterback situation. I mean, it hasn't been great, to be honest with you. And he's still catching, 100 balls a year. So, I mean, that lets you know that he's kind of in a similar situation than what Garrett was the last couple of years.
Yeah, I know, and we haven't even seen Garrett really pop off, and I don't think it's going to happen this week, given he's going to go up against Patrick Surtain. I'm sure he's going to travel.
Not.
I think we're really going to see Garrett pop off after the London game. That's just my prediction. But speaking of receivers, do we think that Mike Williams is going to play most of the offensive snaps this week, or do you think that'll probably be after the London game?
I think they're going to just continue to ease them in too. Like, I think you're going to see probably more like 25 to 30 maybe snaps, which I think is fine. I think you don't want to give them too much there. I feel like each week they've been increasing his snaps, like just a little by little. And I think you kind of saw that against the Patriots there. He made some plays there. I think you'll see a little bit against the Broncos. See it a little bit against the Vikings, and then maybe when it comes Buffalo and then Pittsburgh, I think maybe you'll see him play, majority of those snaps too. But the good thing is you got Alan Lazard, who's been playing really well. So
It's crazy.
I think that also helps as well.
I've been so pleasantly surprised. I just feel like him with Aaron Rodgers is a different person. And honestly, I made the joke last week. I don't blame him for, basically quitting on the team with Zach Wilson, especially with how bad that play was last year. And now that he has his guy back, he's completely motivated. So I'll take it. Who knows how long it's going to last, but we'll take it for right now.
Yeah, I mean, he was asked what's the difference between this year and last year. He basically just said Aaron Rodgers. So yeah, I mean, I think the devastation that Aaron got hurt, the time that he got hurt 4 plays in, and then obviously not having that chemistry with Zach Wilson and also the rest of the quarter, Tim Boyle and also Trevor Siemian. Yeah, I mean, it's he just wasn't going to have as big of a year. But, he probably, I bet you in hindsight, he probably wishes he would have handled things a little bit better, maybe off the field there. But what you're hearing just from players and also coaches is he's taking a more mature, professional look this year compared to last year.
Well, we're thankful because, I mean, if we can keep this Alan Lazard and you keep getting Mike Williams, bringing him back slowly, then I think this offense is going to go to another level, which is great.
So long as he stays healthy too.
Exactly. Yeah. Antwan, I know you're up against it and got to drop off, but before you go, is there any update on the Hassan Reddick situation?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, you heard Aaron joke about the Athletic article today, yeah. So I'm sure that probably doesn't make him too happy there. But no, it's nothing on that front too. It remains to be seen when and if that might happen. I would not hold my breath. Just talking with people.
Yeah. So how much of that is really the Jets kind of digging their heels in on this stance, knowing that they can't cave to a player when they have so many upcoming contracts that they know they're going to have to dole out? Is that the biggest factor in this whole thing?
I think it's part of it too. I think part of it is also he is not really integrated himself with the team. He showed up to the facility one time and really take his physical, and then to have the introductory press conference via Zoom. He didn't show up for mandatory minicamp, didn't show up for any of the spring programs at all. Really doesn't have a relationship with the players. So if you're Joe Douglas, how can you justify giving this man what he wants? And what he wants, what I can tell you, is a lot of money. He thinks he's one of the best defensive ends in the game. And, production-wise, the last 4 years, he is, at least from the sacks perspective, he definitely is. He has the production there. But, you have to look at it from his perspective. You got Sauce Gardner coming up for an extension after this year. Garrett Wilson as well. If you want to keep Breece Hall, which – may be a question, but we'll see. But if, he could potentially have an extension there. We'll see what they do with Jermaine Johnson. Probably just wait and pick up his 5th-year option there. But, yeah, you got a lot of money you need to dole out to people there. And also, not for nothing, this is a make-or-break year for the Jets, too. They understand what the situation is. Joe Douglas in the last year of his deal there. They know if they don't make the playoffs, then none of this is going to matter anyway. So I don't think they necessarily want to be tied to a long-term deal, especially with a guy that just turned 30 years old and also cranky, at the moment too.
good way to describe him. Yeah.
But so Antwan, real quick before you go, what's the key to winning on Sunday for the Jets against the Broncos?
Just don't turn the ball over. And then I think, on the offensive side, just keep doing what you're doing, being aggressive there, not having vanilla play calls there. And I think defensively, dialing up, getting pressure on Bro Nitz too. He showed he's been susceptible to turnovers there. When you talk about the Seattle game, had a really bad fumble against Tampa, although they were, able to recover and win that game. But, if you can just turn up the pressure there, make them feel some pressure, I think you can force some interceptions there. It seemed like the Broncos defense played really well against Tampa there. I think their offense is going to continue to get better there. But I think the key to everything is just trying to get pressure on Bo Nix consistently. And if you can do that, then I think the Jets win this, at least by a touchdown.
Okay. I like to hear that. So what do you got coming out in the Daily News this week?
I mean, we'll see. There's be an article on Aaron Rodgers. We'll talk to him on Wednesday there. Also doing what I like to do, notebooks there, just kind of talk about, just answer questions from fans and, just get their perspective too. Just kind of mailbag there, if you would. So yeah, we'll definitely have that on Thursday too. So be on the lookout for that.
Always love mailbags. Thanks, Antwan. We appreciate it. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Antwan Staley, and also make sure to read his work in the New York Daily News. He's always got good stuff coming out. Thanks, Antwan.
Appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
Yeah, take care, and We'll see you later. Man, it's always fun to check in with the beat sometimes, Russo.
It is, man, especially when things are going good. Jets are 2-1. We're feeling good after that big Thursday win. Let's keep it rolling. The one thing I will say is, like, can't look past this Broncos game, because this stretch, Minnesota, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, now looks a lot different than what we thought it would preseason, right?
It's kind of crazy. And to me, I think the biggest reason why that won't happen is because of who's at quarterback. I think when you have a young quarterback, like when we had Zach Wilson or we had Sam Darnold or we had Geno Smith, and we had these guys coming off a big high, they win a game that was just decisive domination like they did last week. They kind of were feeling themselves. But I think having, a 40-year-old quarterback who's seen just about everything you could possibly see, he's a Super Bowl champion, he's got 4 MVPs, he's keeping everyone level-headed. He's saying, guys, we expected to win that game and dominate the way we did. Let's keep it going. Let's keep stacking wins. We know it's a long season. And I think just based on his, temperament on Pat McAfee, you could tell it's all business. And I think it's just, it's a different vibe. And I think that these players, especially some of the younger guys like a Sauce, a Garrett, even Quentin Williams, who I think is more of a veteran at this point. He's not super young anymore. I think he's 26, 27, which is young, but like for football, he's in his prime. He's not like on his rookie deal. I think that they just see that this is something they got to take advantage of. There's a lot in front of them and they can't squander away easy opportunities or easier opportunities because, every game in the NFL is still hard, even if the opponent isn't, daunting, if for lack of a better word.
Yeah. It's 100% right, and it's so cool to see the effect that Aaron Rodgers has on this offense and on this team, and to see guys like Alan Lazard say, what's the difference between last year and this year, and your success, that you're having this year, but as opposed to last year. And he says Aaron Rodgers. To ask Joe Tippmann, what's the reason for you guys leading the league in third down completion percentage? What's the difference? Aaron Rodgers. Like, he just has this way about him, and Thursday night, he was lights out. He was in his bag, and it was awesome to see. And it's a really different feeling for me, for you, for all Jets fans. I kind of mentioned it with Antwan. Like, you have a penalty that brings you back to 1st and 15. You're not in full on panic mode because the drive is shot, right? You get backed up to 2nd and 16 or 3rd and long, and you still feel like you have a shot. And he hits Conklin on a crosser and he gets the first down, or throws like the one to Garrett Wilson in the corner of the end zone. Like, you're not scared that that's going to be a pick six. Like, there's just so much about what he's doing and how this offense looks and the calming presence that he has, which just makes you feel good, obviously. And listen, I don't want to get out over my skis. We're only 3 weeks in. It was a win over a Patriots who, they're going to settle in here. They're not that good of a team, but to beat that team in that fashion, to have like things like the missed kick before the end of the half, right? Where all of us, I think, kind of sank a little bit and said, oh shit, here we go.
Yep.
Like, this is the beginning of the end. This is where things turn. But to come out and you get a 3 and out to start the half and you come down and score a touchdown and that's it. Like, those are just the little things where you see kind of the tide turning, and Aaron Rodgers kind of just bringing that veteran, like, Hall of Fame quarterback presence that nobody else can. It's Aaron Rodgers. And you think about all these things, and like, it's just really cool to have AR as the QB of the New York Jets. Like, that's just a feeling that none of us have experienced. No, there's no quarterback that has played for the New York Jets with this talent level ever.
Not Favre, not Pennington,
Nope.
not Vinny. I mean, Joe Namath was so long ago, I can't speak on it, but I don't think he was. I just think Aaron Rodgers is one of the 7 best quarterbacks to ever live. Like, it's not even debatable. And like, it's hard to explain to people, who aren't Jets fans, what that was like. I tweeted this. I was texting people about it. When he threw that touchdown to get to Garrett, that was just like basically any other quarterback we've ever had. That's a pick six going the other way. When he did that, I wasn't even scared to get picked off, but the fact that it was just so surgical, I thought it felt like I won the Powerball. Like, I was like, what is this feeling? And the fact that all these third downs, we're just completing third down after third down, moving the sticks. It was just like, every time we've been on like 3rd and long, it was always like an automatic, like, oh, we're punting. Like, no, not with this guy. It's just crazy. And like, the team is just there's just a different vibe. And I mean, look, I think the defense can certainly be vulnerable against certain opponents based on what we saw against San Francisco, but I think it's going to get better. I think they're adjusting with their personnel, not having Jermaine. I think the blitzing is actually really interesting. It's something that we've been hoping they would do a little bit more than they've done in the past. I know they've been strong about, rushing and winning on their own without help, but you got to adapt to your personnel and you got to be next man up. And I think it's allowing Will McDonald to really blossom. And what a start this guy's off to. I mean, even the most optimistic Jet fan, I know Buffalo Jet fan is the Twitter's Will McDonald propagandist. I don't even think he saw 5 sacks through 3 games and 3 in 1 game. It's been phenomenal. What are your thoughts on Will McDonald so far?
It's unbelievable and, part lucky for us, but part just, it's really at this point, it's like a necessity, right? When you're without Reddick and you're now without Jermaine Johnson, like you need a guy to step up, and he has stepped up in a huge way. So for him to not only like get this chance, but to really take advantage and be performing and get 5 sacks in 2 games, 5 sacks through 3 games, but really 5 in the last 2, like, it's incredible, and it's obviously necessary, and it brings an element, and it fills in that hole that JJ left, and that hole that was obviously there from Hassan Reddick that now gives you more flexibility in the defense. But we always kind of have that.
Lost you for a second, but it's okay. Yeah, you're on here. I'll help you out here. Says it's not connected, but I'll keep it going. But I get what you're saying. Even though we don't have Hassan Reddick, it certainly makes things, a lot easier for this defense when they have someone like Will McDonald who's able just to be a complete game wrecker. I know he's not strong against the run, and I know that was something that we were concerned about. It obviously was a concern when we were playing against San Francisco, but at the same time, he's making it up for it with how they are, with how he's been, and they've clearly, picked it up in the run defense game. I mean, it's been a completely different team on defense against the run since that, initial opening night blowout.
Yeah. Sorry. So technical difficulties, but I appreciate you jumping in and filling in for me. But no, huge night for Will McDonald, huge last couple of games. It just kind of gives you confidence that he's going to be able to build on that. And we've always had that confidence in Ulbrich that he can make adjustments on the fly. And clearly he did that. Now, the Patriots are not a great offensive team, but
I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Exactly. Like you take it, and seeing them still run the ball, like when they're down 3 scores late in the game, like that was just poetic justice. Like I really love seeing that. And to see the Jets still get 7 sacks on Thursday night, like just incredible. And I really like to see them continue to build upon that. And I think when you have Bo Nix, a rookie quarterback, not a great offense in Denver coming into town, it'll be exciting to see how this defensive line and how the defense overall kind of performs, and especially if they can do it with a lead. And if this team can get, and you saw the Saleh and Aaron Rodgers interaction, 2-score lead. Like if this defense can pin their ears back and be able to go after the quarterback like that, like it changes a lot of things. And you'll see them kind of settle in. The first 6 quarters were iffy, but the last 6 have been really, really good. Outside of one fluke touchdown to Calvin Ridley that should have been picked, they haven't given up anything. And that's, encouraging to see. So hopefully they settle in, the offense keeps building, and it'll be a fun one, man.
Yeah, I mean, look, Bo Nix hasn't thrown a touchdown yet in his NFL career. He's rushed for a couple, but like this guy isn't, Patrick Mahomes coming into MetLife. So I think Ulbrich is definitely going to throw him things that he hasn't seen. I think they're going to stack the box and try to make him win with his arm. He hasn't really thrown the ball with any success down the field, at least I think 5 yards or further. So if they dink and dunk and they can't run the ball, I mean, I just can't really see a scenario where this defense doesn't overpower them. I understand that, Denver has a pretty good defense, and we've seen that the last 2 years when we've played them. But I think we keep forgetting. Well, it's not that we keep forgetting. We're just not even fully realizing who the guy is at quarterback, and he will find ways to beat this defense, whether it is with Garrett Wilson, who's going to be shadowed by Patrick Surtain, or it's going to maybe be Mike Williams with some more jump balls, or even the running backs. I mean, we haven't even talked about Braylon Allen, who's been just an absolute stud. And we were all excited about him based on how he looked in the preseason, but he is so much further along than we could have ever expected to this point. He has to play, he has to get at least 10 to 12 touches a game, whether it's catches or carries. So it's amazing. And I feel like we haven't even really had our big, 80-yard, 70-yard play. And I feel like given what we've seen from Brees the past 2 years against the Broncos, I feel like he's ready to do it if, you know what I'm saying.
Keep going. Third time. Yeah, I think 2 years in a row, right? 70+ yard touchdown runs. So let's hope we can get 3. But yeah, the Braylon Allen point, Antwan touched on it earlier. Like those are the encouraging signs from Nate Hackett too. Like getting Braylon and Breece on the field at the same time, having that, diversity on the field, like being able to do that, not consistently try to fit a square peg in a round hole, coming out against New England and no huddle and like running tempo. And listen, that drive came to a stall, I think, because of a penalty, if I remember correctly. But still, they moved the ball. They got into New England's territory. Although they ended up punting, like you get the ball back after 3 and out, you drive down, you score a touchdown. Like those are the little things, those little positive signs that encourage Jets fans that, you know what, maybe last year was an anomaly. Maybe it wasn't as bad as we all thought. Maybe it really was just a product of having a bad, hurt offensive line and the worst possible QB situation that you could ever imagine. And that's what kind of really gives you that excitement for this year and what could happen. But I'm excited, man. I think you want to dive into this Broncos game and predictions and what we think.
Yeah, let's do it. So, I mean, I kind of laid it out what I think they need to do. And I think the key here is stack the box, stop the run, make Bo Nix throw the ball. If he does that, he's going to make mistakes. He's a rookie quarterback. He's going against one of the best secondaries in the league. I think they're going to force turnovers. I think it's going to be it could be even uglier, from a quarterback perspective when you look at, just how Jacoby Brissett was. I know that the Broncos don't have McGlinchey. That's a huge thing. I know Garrett Bowles is playing, but I know he got banged up in week 1, so he's probably not 100%. I just, based on what I saw, and I hope that they're not too high off of that. And I think with all indications from Rodgers and how he's going to handle his business, I don't think that they will. I think they understand that this is a game they need to win. It's an AFC opponent. It counts for a lot of things down the road. And obviously they have a big matchup with the Vikings in London coming up. And I think they're not going to overlook this opponent, especially what they saw, what the Buccaneers did, at home to lose to this opponent the way that they did. I think, I'm not sitting here and saying Robert Saleh's, Bill Parcells over here, but I think that he understands that this is an opportunity that they can't squander and they got to stack wins and build that confidence. I mean, the spread is 7.5. I just think that they probably win by 10 points. I'm going to go 28-10 Jets.
I like it. I'm in the same boat. I think when you look at it from a defensive perspective, you can't really be scared of Bo Nix. I think you're absolutely right. You have to do what you can to put pressure on him and force him into turnovers and force him to make mistakes. If you get a turnover or 2 out of him, I think this is the Jets game, and there's no question. If you can flip the field a couple of times, then you'll be in good hands. I think ultimately the Broncos defense is the strength of their team, but you made the point earlier, and I think it's what every Jets fan feels, is that Aaron Rodgers is good enough to figure this out. You've seen Breece Hall have success against this Broncos defense in 2 years, the past 2 years. Now you add Braylon Allen in, you add Mike Williams in, you add Aaron Rodgers, like we'll be able to figure this out. So I really, at the end of the day, you have a very good Jets defense that's figuring stuff out. You have Aaron Rodgers against a good Broncos defense, against the rookie quarterback. And that's really what it boils down to. And I don't think we can forget that Aaron Rodgers tends to hold grudges and has things to prove. And the Sean Payton, Nate Hackett comments from last summer, I think, are still resonating with Aaron. So he's got something to prove. So I think the Jets come out and I think they win this game. I'm going to say similar to you, but I think it's going away. I think they win like 30-13.
Okay.
I think they cover, and I think we start to see this offense click even more, score a little bit more points, finally get into the 30s. But I think Surtain matching up on Garrett Wilson is going to be challenging, but I think you start seeing Garrett click. I'm not going to say he's going to go off for like 8 for $130, but I think you start to see him getting that like 6 or 7 catches for 70 to 80 range, maybe another touchdown. But you start to see them kind of build that foundation for what's to come here in the next few weeks, and then from the season on.
I think there's going to be a lot of quick game with him. I think they're going to try to get him the ball fast so that way he could do some stuff after the catch. I think that they understand they can't necessarily attack, deep down the field with Surtain on him because he's going to travel with him. But I think that'll probably be the strategy. I think Aaron has to continue to do what he did last week. Keep feeding Conklin across the middle of the field. I feel like that's where they could be vulnerable. That's what, you saw with the Patriots, who have a decent defense. It's not like their defense is like this horrible thing. Christian Gonzalez did a great job. They have some guys, on the back end. I just think that, when you look at who the Broncos have played quarterback-wise, this is the best quarterback that they've faced. I mean, they played Geno Smith, they played Baker, and then they played Justin Fields. And think about this, like Geno Smith had a pretty decent game against them. I could see a scenario where Aaron watches that film and he's like, okay, these are the things I need to do. Geno dropped in these buckets. I got to do the same thing. I really think that the running backs are really going to pop off. We haven't seen a 100-yard rusher yet. So I think that they're going to lean heavily on the run. And I think that Aaron's going to play efficiently. I definitely could see scenarios where they, the running backs do a lot of the dirty work and then they get inside the 10-yard line and Aaron just takes it and just puts it in.
Agreed. And, back to the Garrett Wilson stuff, like, I just think it's little things here and there. Like, you think he's played obviously 3 very good defenses and very, very good corners to start the year. Right. But even all things considered, like I want to say he missed a catch against San Francisco where he should have toe dragged and he didn't. Right. That's one right there. Some miscues in the Tennessee game. And last week he missed another opportunity to drag his toes on the sideline. He had one little miscue on the left sideline with Aaron Rodgers. Like that's 4 or 5 catches right there. And we're talking about a whole different story. And the guy's still like, he's doing well. This isn't a bad first 3 games from Garrett Wilson. It's just not up to what his potential could be. So when you think about what they'll start doing to kind of force feed him, and you heard Aaron Rodgers talk about, listen, 11 targets in the first game, that's not enough. We need to get to 15, 16, 17, like keep building on that. I think you'll start to see it. And I think ultimately this offense is going to really click, and we're just scratching the surface on what it could be. So I'm excited, man. I'm really I'm looking forward to it. And it's a weird feeling for us Jets fans. It's crazy.
It really is. I'm going to be in the building. I'm very excited.
All right.
Yes, I'm going to be in the building. So I will be there. And then I'm also going to the Colts game in November on Sunday Night Football. My first ever Sunday Night Football experience. But yes, if anyone sees me, don't hesitate to say hello. I will gladly talk to people about the Jets. It's one of my favorite things to do in my life. My wife will probably get mad at me, but that's okay. But it should be fun. First time getting out to MetLife this season. It's one of the few 1:00 Sunday games. I feel like I couldn't really miss it. So, it's going to be fun.
Should be a nice day too, right?
I know that's also the vibes. I feel like every home game last year and the year before that was rain. It's been sunny and 75. That's perfect football weather in my eyes. I mean, some people prefer it more in the 60s, but I'll take whatever I can get.
Absolutely.
Any closing thoughts here? So as we wrap here.
No, I think it was fun having Antwan on. I think he shed some light. I think it was good for him to, he didn't have to ground us. I think he's saying what we're all thinking is like, yeah, you guys should be excited. You got Aaron Rodgers, like this offense, this team looks good. And we're not saying Super Bowl yet, but you know what? We're also not saying that we can't have that conversation later on. And this team does have the potential to do some great things, but you got to continue to build on it and stack wins. And I think that's just where we all want to be. But to everyone else's point, to your point, to mine, like, you haven't experienced what we've been through the last how many years. So like seeing what we've seen and to see competence and confidence in an offense against a team that you're supposed to win, against a team that has given us hell for 25 years. Like it was cool. It was awesome. And I'm excited, but no, good show, man. What are your closing thoughts?
Nothing. Just win the game and get to London. I think that's all I got to say. Don't mess around. Don't get too cute. I think use a lot of the approach that you had last week against New England. It's a similar type of opponent. They're not going to beat you through the air. So you just got to do the same thing you did. And I think that they will. I'm confident. I think Ulbrich is going to call a great game. I think he's shown a lot of, creativity just because he's, adjusting with his personnel. So I'm excited. Thank you for everybody who tuned in, whether you're watching or listening. Make sure to subscribe to the show on YouTube, youtube.com/@BadlandsTOJ. You'll get this show. You'll get clips of all of Badlands. Make sure also to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or even Amazon podcasts to get the show. Turn on the Jets Live. And last but certainly not least, make sure to become a Badlands Patreon subscriber. I know that it's been full force with all the content. I know that Joe, Connor, and even Zach, our newest teammate, dropped a podcast just before we went live. And I know there'll be a war room that's coming out tomorrow. Best $10 you'll ever spend. The Discord is lit. I know that Russo is trying to get more involved with the Discord, but it's basically the most safe space you can have as a Jets fan. And basically just a large group text with all your Jet fan friends. But it's been awesome. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. We do apologize. There was a gap last week. We didn't get to do a Tennessee recap. We'll make sure to get more streams coming in. We want to take some more calls. So if you ever want to join, we'll put the link in the chat. We'll put the link on the tweet. We appreciate everybody. We'll talk to you guys next week.